The Don Kroah Show on WAVA, brought to you in part by Safford Lincoln Mercury, Montgomery Auto Park, Route 29, Briggs Cheney Road in Silver Spring, Maryland. Whether you're in the market for a good used car or like to test one of the new Lincolns like the crossover MKX or the MKS or Lincoln's newest creation, the elegant MKZ, I suggest you call Safford Lincoln Mercury in Silver Spring today. Their number is 1-888-SAFFORD. That's 888-SAFFORD or SaffordLM.com on the web. My guest today on Business Leadership Today, Ingar Grev. He is a man who has almost 20 years of experience as a leader in Fortune 500 and startup companies, as well, military, academic institutions, volunteer organizations, and has worked with a number of businesses to help them become stronger and, as you said, Ingar, more balanced in their approach. Your primary area of work is that with, as you said, I think, mature businesses that are up and running, and maybe need to do what? Enlarge or course correct or expand, or what are some of the things you offer when you do that work?
Well, I'll tell you, let me start off with first an explanation, and that is that roughly about 95% of businesses, according to the Small Business Administration, have some kind of ignominious exit after 10 years. And that means that they either go out of business or they sell it for less than they want to actually get out of the business, or it just doesn't return the kind of wealth that it could actually return for a business owner. Once a business owner takes the risk, that's the hardest part. That's the hardest part of an entrepreneurship, is actually taking the risk. Now you might as well get the most that you possibly can out of that business. What we do is help those business owners convert those businesses to glorified jobs to real businesses. And what that means in concrete terms is we make them system-centric. And there's three big benefits that you get out of a business being system-centric. What I mean by that are businesses that run off of systems and processes and not the gumption or the day-to-day input of the business owner. Three benefits you get out of that are, one, the business can scale, because now the transactions the business can handle are no longer limited by the number of hours that a business owner could put into the business every single day. Two, the business owner can actually take a vacation. Wahoo! Great stuff. You can actually leave for a week or two and not worry about taking your BlackBerry with you, or even take off a month or two and come back to find that business operating profitably and smoothly. In fact, that's the metric that I use to determine whether or not someone's a client. Can they actually leave the business for a month or two and come back to find it operating profitably and smoothly? And the last thing you get out of a system-centric business is that it's worth a lot more when you sell it, because now the value of the business is going to be tied to those predictable future cash flows. When it's running off systems and processes and not off the owner's not the special sauce, now that business is far more valuable because it's based upon the employees and the systems that run it.
And it's predictable that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it's predictable.
If you have a question for us, 888-293-9282, just this part of the hour, as we have as our guest Ingar Grev. He is the growth coach here in the Washington, D.C. area. And as a matter of fact, the website is just what we gave, dcgrowthcoach.com, www.dcgrowthcoach.com. Now, I know you've, through the years, heard all kinds of arguments as to why a particular business owner doesn't think he or she needs any kind of outside help. They've either got it figured out already, or nobody knows my business as well as I. Take us down some of those trails.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that before I bought the Growth Coach, we're a national franchise. Before I bought the franchise, I was probably one of the biggest scoffers about coaching. And here I am as a business coach. And the example I like to usually use is the one of Lance Armstrong. Lance, 7-time Tour de France winner, and hopefully now an 8th because he now just came out of retirement, was coached by Chris Carmichael. Now, Chris Carmichael never even won a stage in a Tour de France. Now, why would Lance Armstrong hire a guy who never even won a stage in a Tour de France to be his coach? And the reason is simply that that Chris Carmichael is an expert at coaching. That's what he did well. He's an expert at coaching. And Lance Armstrong was an expert at riding. Lance Armstrong is not going to be anybody's coach. Chris Carmichael is. And that's basically how it flows out into business. I'm not going to pretend that I'm anybody's expert. I don't know anything about the radio business. I don't know anything about the construction business. But what I do know, what's fundamentally sound, is that all businesses need cash flow. They all need to be system-centric. They all need to have employees that are led and motivated to achieve a vision. And they need to have an impact on the environment and on their communities.
Well, we've triggered a question from Daniel in Washington. I'm not sure it's we'll find out if it's an area you can talk to, Ingar. Daniel, thank you for calling. You're on with Ingar Grev. Go ahead.
Yes, hi. I'm glad you got my call. I have a building in Washington, D.C. It's in a very good area in Capitol Hill, and just acquired the building. It's a shell, and it needs extensive renovation. And I don't have the cash flow to get that building renovated. And with the market the way it is now, they're saying you can't even get a loan to do anything. So what do I do?
Well, that's a great question. And I wish I could give you an answer. The traditional answer has always been, hey, find some way to get financing. But today, and this has impacted me personally as well. Today, it's actually pretty hard to find that financing. Don, you're right. I'm not sure if I can actually answer this question for you. That goes beyond the scope of my expertise.
Well, let me suggest a couple of things. I don't know that they would help either, but we have had for years on our station 2 excellent mortgage companies. One is Covenant Mortgage, and also Cornerstone First. You can put either of those into your search engine. I'm sure it'll bring up Washington area mortgage companies such as Cornerstone First Financial. That's one of them, Cornerstone First Financial or Covenant Mortgage. And if they can help you, they will. Or if they can't, they can certainly steer you, Daniel, in a direction that because they both know the Washington market, the whole greater Washington metro market very well. All right?
Okay, I appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We're going to take a break, come back for a couple of more minutes with Ingar Grev. He is a growth coach, and he does just what we were talking about, coaches businesses into a balanced approach in their business and answer some of those questions. In fact, when we come back, I want to ask you to comment, Ingar, on some things you've heard, such as people say, hey, I'm making enough money. My business is big enough. I love what I'm doing. I want to give up the day-to-day. I don't need a vacation. We'll come back to those questions and more in just a moment here on Business Leadership Today on The Don Kroah Show. Our number for your question is 888-293-9282. Again, that's 888-293-9282.